Sacerdotus Hangouts, the broadcast that answers doubts about God, the Catholic Church, science, philosophy, and other worldly topics figured out.
Hello, welcome to Sacerdotus Hangouts. Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Buon Natale, in whatever language you speak. I wish you the best and I hope you had a great time during this season, which we are still in. And also a belated Happy Hanukkah to my Jewish brothers and sisters. A general Happy New Year 2017 to the entire globe. On today's broadcast, I want to speak on Christmas and New Year, and also squeeze in some questions or some tweets that I have received for the last couple of weeks, and try my best to answer them so that I could continue educating the people on the different topics that I generally write about online on my blog and speak about on here, and as well as Sacerdotus Radio. So I think I will get first to the questions because that seems to take a bit of time. So I'm going to try right now to share the screen that I have so that we can get it started. And you can see what I'm seeing, and we could continue from there. So I just lost a tweet. Let me get it back here. Okay, the first tweet that I have here, the first question is from Allocutus. And this gentleman, we go a while back from when I first started Twitter in 2009. I do not think he messaged me back then, but I think around 2010, 2011, he started to message me. And we got into interesting discussions and whatnot. So he sent me this question, and he says, "Why do you obsess with atheism and atheists, but fail to provide evidence of a deity despite repeated requests?" Okay, that's an interesting question. Why do I obsess with atheism and atheists? Actually, I do not obsess with atheism or atheists. In fact, when I started my account on Twitter in 2009, I hardly used it. I had like 3 or 5 tweets, if I remember correctly. And the tweets were just general statements, general status updates, or little prayer requests or whatnot. Let us pray for this, let us pray for that. And then I stopped using it because I felt it was pointless. I really did not like it. I found it boring. But then, lo and behold, Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Emeritus, comes along and he says, I believe on Holy Thursday one year rather, he says that the clergy, religious, seminarians, and the like should take advantage of social media, of the internet, and promote the gospel, promote the teachings of the church, and engage the people via these new outlets. So since he said that, I felt obligated to start using these things. So I went back on Twitter and started tweeting a bit more. I eventually created a Facebook page and continued from there and started building up a blog. And the blog started with 12 views and now it has almost a million views. I'm guessing in a few weeks it's going to hit a million views. And the Twitter account started with a few followers. It went up to 200, 400. Then when I got into the little back and forth battle between William Houslow, who blogs as, or used to blog, or used to tweet as Rosa Ruby Condor, that number dramatically increased and it went to 1,000, 2,000, now it's 3,000, almost 4,000. So, because of Pope Benedict, really, atheists out there, Allocutus, if you want to blame anyone, you have to blame Pope Benedict because he's the one that said for us to use social media and so forth to engage the people. So I do not have an obsession with atheism or atheists or not, because if you look through my timeline, I tweet about everything. I tweet about, just recently I was tweeting about Mariah Carey and the disaster that happened on the New Year's Eve show where she was going to sing and the vocals didn't come out, and obviously let the whole world know that she was lip syncing, and it was obviously embarrassing. And everybody went to Twitter and made fun of it and whatnot. So I was tweeting a little bit about that. And before that, I was tweeting about the police allowing, the New York Police Department allowing turbans. So I tweeted about that. Here and there, I tweeted about Christmas. Here and there, I tweeted about news regarding Obama and Trump. I tweeted about abortion, about the LGBT community, about things of that nature. So you look through my timeline, over 100 so 100,000 so tweets. I tweet about everything. Now, naturally, you may see a lot of tweets about atheism because I used to be an atheist. So I felt, or I feel like I could better connect with atheists because I came from where they're coming, where they're at, I should say. So that's why I focus a good amount of attention to atheists because, unlike other apologists who were born, raised in the Catholic Church, I was not. So they feel more comfortable evangelizing to Catholics, to preaching to the choir, so to speak. Whereas I did not have that luxury or that experience. I was around non believers all the time, atheists, the heathens, if you will. So I understand them. I used to be them. I used to think like them. I used to speak like them, organize arguments like them. So I think that gives me a good advantage when evangelizing towards atheists because I know where they're coming from. I know what they're thinking before they even tell me. I know what they're going to say before they even say it because guess what? I said the same thing. I thought the same thing. So I'm able to organize response and replies because I was one of them. So it's not an obsession that I have with atheism. Atheists. It's just that I feel that that's my gift right now. My calling right now is to reach out to the people, my people, so to speak, and hopefully set them free from the cult of atheism. So that's the first part. The second part, but failed to provide evidence of a deity. Allocutus knows very well that I have tweeted blog links showing evidence, whether philosophical or scientific, from my blog and also from other sources as well. I have tweeted here and there. So to say that I did not provide evidence is outright lying because it's right there on my feed, on my Twitter feed, and also you go on Facebook, you'll find stuff there. Even on YouTube, I have two accounts for YouTube, the Sacerdotus one and this one right now, Sacerdotus Hangouts. And they have videos where I speak on the evidence for God and using science, philosophy, and different areas of academia. I even have videos of me speaking with other atheists. Back in June, I got into a nice little discussion with so-called an alleged atheist from Google Plus, and during that exchange, he tripped himself up by claiming that virtual particles are not caused, and he, in the process of trying to defend himself, he actually said what I was explaining to him. In other words, he was attacking himself by trying to defend himself. He was attacking himself and his point by actually saying what I was trying to explain to him while he was trying to speak over me and was muting my microphone. So that claim that the accusation that I failed to provide evidence for deity is just ridiculous because it's all over the place. Not to mention the book. I mean, I wrote a book called Atheism is Stupid, and I provide tons of evidence, tons of arguments there, using philosophy, science, and so forth. Even though the book is not geared towards providing evidence for a deity, the purpose of the book is to critique atheism, to show that atheism is in fact stupid. And again, I had to make this clear because so many people misunderstand me. They think I'm calling atheists stupid. I'm not. I'm calling the ideology, the concept of atheism stupid. And I make the case why. And again, this book is coming from me, from my point of view as an atheist. My transition from atheism to Catholicism, from not believing to believing. And in the book, as you read it, you pretty much get a mental schema of where I was during my transition and how I came to the conclusion that it makes absolute sense that there is a God. There is no if, ands, or buts about it. There is a God. And I explain the process. I go through all the different arguments that atheists make that I made myself. I presented the argument, I show the origin of it, and then I refute it with actual facts. So if Alicutis bothers to get my book, I mean, he could actually see evidence for God and so forth. If he bothers to look at my tweets on my blog site or the videos on YouTube, he could see tons of stuff there. And if there's anything that he's confused about, he's welcome to ask a question. What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? Or this scientist said this, but you say that. You know, what's going on? And I will be more than happy to answer. But to say that I never provided evidence when it's just an outright lie. So let's go to the next one, which is I got a few from Alicutis, and this is another one. And he wrote, "Why are you charging money for sharing what you consider to be proof of God? Isn't that unethical?" Now, I'm not sure what he means by charging money. I'm assuming he means the book. Well, I stated from the beginning that the book is meant as a fundraiser, pretty much. It's not meant to. I don't want to become the next Patterson, the book author, or the lady that wrote what's the name of the book? Harry Potter. I forgot her name. I'm definitely not looking for that to become this, cash cow author. The purpose of the book, or the two purposes of the book, is to educate people, both Christian, non-Christian, or atheist, agnostic, whatever, to present to them the facts of why atheism is stupid, coming from the perspective of a former atheist, using science, philosophy, and so forth, addressing the different things that atheists address. So that's the first part, is to educate. That's the purpose of the book. And that's not the only book. There's more volumes coming. I could not fit, if I tried to fit everything in that book, it would have been almost 1,000 pages. And I figured a lot of people do not like reading, unfortunately. I love reading, so it's not a problem for me, but a lot of people do not like reading. They fall asleep, they get tired after reading a few pages, they get distracted, life is busy for them and whatnot. So, logically speaking, I felt, let me not make the book too long because then people will complain or people will not bother to read it. And what's the point of writing it if you're not going to read it? Nobody's going to read it. So I didn't try not to include everything in the first book. So I decided to chop it up into pieces, so to speak, break it up into volumes. And in each volume, I'll address more and more of the different things that I addressed when I was an atheist, and which atheists today still address and believe there's no answer to, when in fact there is an answer to. And so that's the first part of the book. The second part of the book is obviously to raise funds. It's not easy to pay for domain names and equipment. Like this microphone I'm using right now, it's a Blue Yeti microphone. It costs nearly $200, and it's a good quality microphone. I could set it to just record me, or if I'm doing an interview with somebody with me here, I could put it to record on both sides, so the person will be across from me, and it will pick up the person's voice as well as my voice, and almost like a Larry King type setting. Or I could do a conference type thing and get a round table, have different people around the table, put this microphone in the middle, and it'll pick up everybody around the microphone as they speak. So it's a very high quality professional microphone, which obviously I needed in order to do these broadcasts and to record Sacerdotus Radio and whatnot. Because if you listen to my first broadcast from 2014, I believe, a lot of the audio is not that great. You could hear some static, you could hear some noises and whatnot, because I was actually using one of those microphones from the phone. So that's why I decided, you know what, I need something better, something more professional. So thank God I was able to raise some money and acquire this microphone. And I still need more equipment to make the broadcast and so forth even better. So instead of going around and asking people for donations with a PayPal and then the GoFundMe and whatnot, I figured, well, if I sell the books, hopefully that could bring some little extra income that I could save up and purchase more things, more equipment for these broadcasts, as well as paying the bills for the domain names and so forth, and also get some materials in regards to doing research. Now, I do have access to journals and things like that, scientific journals, philosophical journals, whatnot. But my university, my former university, they only have but so much. Unfortunately, some of these scientists ask too much for their work, so universities are not able to really buy these journals or whatnot. So if I do have a little money left over, I could purchase these journals and whatnot that cost 50 to nearly hundreds of dollars, depending on the topic that I want to write about or speak on, whether it's physics, psychology, or whatnot. And it also prepares me better, so that I could better educate you guys listening to me right now. So again, that's the reason why the book is charged, so to speak, to raise money, to raise funds, and whatnot. And of course, I really do not have control of that. I'm using CreateSpace, which is an independent publishing company. So you pretty much have full control of your work, which is what I like. And they actually require you to put a price on the book. So depending how big the book is, the margins, how many pages, and so forth, they give you a suggested price, and you cannot go below that. Otherwise, you cannot publish it with them. So I'm pretty much stuck with that. So I cannot make the book $5 or $2 or anything like that. I can't do that unless I shrink the book down to 20 pages, which would be ridiculous. So since the book is 274 pages or 284 pages, then I had to follow the guidelines of CreateSpace and use the price scale that they offer and whatnot. But the good thing about it is that I am able to create coupons for discounts. So I did that last January for the Feast of St. Thomas Aquinas. I tweeted and posted a coupon on Facebook and on the social media for those who want to get my book, and I discounted $5 off of the book. So at least CreateSpace allows that. Unfortunately, you cannot apply the coupon elsewhere. So if you wanted to get my book via Amazon or Barnes and Nobles or whatnot, unfortunately the coupon will not work there. So that's, I mean, it's a double-edged sword, so to speak. But at least with a coupon, you could go on CreateSpace and purchase it there and get the discount or whatnot. So it's not much of a hassle. I mean, you're saving money. So what if you cannot purchase it via Amazon or Barnes Noble or anything? But at least you go CreateSpace directly to the publisher and get a discount there and get it for cheaper. And I will be posting a coupon soon, so stay tuned to that via Twitter and Facebook. All right, the next question. It's again from Alacutus, and he writes, "If your book really proves God, will you share it for free and rely on donations from happy converts?" And again, Alacutus, since this create space, I really have no control. I cannot give the book for free. The only way I could give the book for free is if I buy my own book, which means I have to order my own book. Now, being the author, I do get the book cheaper, so I could order by bulk, and then I could choose to either sell it myself or just give it out. Now, unfortunately, I do not have enough funds to do that. I would love to do that. I mean, if you or anybody else could help me raise the $35,000, I could surely set aside $3,000 and buy $3,000 worth of books, which will be about, let's see, nearly 7,000 books. If my estimate is correct, it would be nearly 7,000 books that I could buy with just $3,000. Because again, the book is given cheap to the author. So again, if you guys could help me out with the GoFundMe and help me raise the money, I could set aside $3,000 and buy my own book and then mail it out to anybody who asks for free. So again, but I would need funds for that in order to be able to purchase my own book by bulk and be able to give it out for free. So if you have any ideas how to do that, then feel free to contact me. And the donations from happy converts. Well, I mean, I did have a few converts who did send me donations. They're not huge, but I mean, it's something. But I mean, with the way the world is going today, a lot of people are wary about donating, especially with so many charities out there asking for money, and they turn out to be using the money for CEOs and for private things, so on. So people really are not giving like they used to back in the day, which is unfortunate. And obviously, with something like my work, it would be even more difficult to raise money because there's so many people out there asking money in the name of God that people just do not trust anybody anymore. I try my best to be transparent with everybody. I mean, what you see is what you get. I'm just here trying to evangelize people, trying to evangelize, especially those people outside of the church or those people who felt alienated by the church for whatever reason. So I try my best to be transparent in that regard. I mean, whether they trust me or not, I mean that's on them and their conscience and between them and God. But anybody who donates money, they have my word that it's not being misused. That is directed towards the purposes that I say, which is what I've been saying to pay the domain names and get materials and the equipment and so forth. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else that it is being used for. And you're listening to some of the fruit of it, the microphone, the Blue Yeti microphone. I would not be able to get this if it wasn't for the help of people who donated. So because I get a stipend of about $70 a month, so try to do the math. $70 a month. I gotta use that to get toiletries and things like that, and get lunch here and there from outside, especially if I'm working in a soup kitchen or with a homeless or at a nursing home or hospital, something like that, and I need to eat lunch or something. Then I have to use that money to, you know, ration it out in order to get lunch and things like that. So I cannot just use the $70 just to support the work here because then I will have trouble taking care of myself. So that's why I ask kindly for people out there to help. Um, don't just listen to me for free. Don't just read things for free, even though it is free. But I mean, just be a little bit considerate and try to help me out because if I can't pay for these things, they're just going to disappear. If I cannot pay for the domain name, the whole blog is going to disappear. All those thousands of blogs that I wrote, that thousands of people visit every day, will just go, and I have no control of it. And of course, and then with the broadcast, I will not be able to get the equipment in order to sound professional, so that everybody can understand what I'm saying and what I'm trying to explain, instead of listening to static and so forth. So the next thing, again from Alacutus, when will you make an electronic version of your book available free so people can freely see your proof of God? Well, I do have the electronic version of my book. I do not have one for the children's version. I'm debating about that. But I do have one for the first book, Atheism is Stupid. There is an electronic version. As for free, I'm not too sure, but I think people that use Kindle and if they subscribe to something on Amazon, I think with Kindle books or something like that. I'm not too sure for because I don't have an Amazon tablet or anything like that, so I cannot. I'm not an expert on it, but I think people that have the Amazon tablet, um, Kindle, and whatever subscription Amazon offers via that, I think they get books for free. I'm not too sure. So you will have to find out from Amazon about that. But I think that uh, via the Kindle subscription or whatever Amazon offers, they let you get books for free. And I'm not sure if one of my books is one of them, but I think so because I remember a Catholic friend of mine who saw my Twitter feed and my Facebook. She had asked me if there was an electronic version, and she was able to get the book for free on her tablet. So if she was able to do it, then I think many people can do it as well. But again, you have to find out from Amazon directly or Kindle or whoever makes that system. But I do have an electronic version of the book available, and it's going to be updated soon, as a matter of fact. So if you were planning on getting it, I will say hold on a bit until the book gets updated so that you can get the new stuff and whatnot. All right, and then the next tweet here that I have, this is a tweet that I wrote. Um, I wrote studies. Well, I was going to say students. Studies show that atheists are angry with God. And then I put an image, a meme here of a quote from a study by Exline, Park, Smith, and Carey from 2010. These are psychologists, scholars, scientists, social scientists. And they write in the journal, not only may some atheists and agnostics have anger toward God as part of their religious spiritual history, but some may still have anger focused on images of a hypothetical God. And again, this is a study involving the psychology behind atheists and how they perceive God and so forth. And based on the studies that they did, they found out that atheists and agnostics do have, due to their religious spiritual history, meaning something may have happened to these people. Most likely they were Christian, Catholic, whatever, and something happened in the church and they got angry. They got angry with God because obviously they felt, for example, if a priest did something bad or got an attitude with them and they just lost faith, they said, "Oh, this guy's a jerk. I'm not going to this church anymore. You know what? I'm not going to church at all. Period. I'm going to stop believing." And then they get mad at God because they figure, well, God, you say you're going to do all these things. You say you're going to give peace to these people. These men of God are supposed to be with you, but yeah, they're jerks. They treat people bad. They're nasty, or not. And you're not doing what you say you're going to do, change people's hearts and so forth. So I'm going to be angry with you. And anything associated with you, images of a hypothetical God or anything has to do with religion, they get angry with it. Now, some so-called atheists on Twitter have tweeted to me saying that I made this up. I did not make this up. This comes from an actual study. So it's something that I just quoted from an actual psychological source, a peer-reviewed journal, and just to put everything into perspective that there is something psychological that goes on in the mind of an atheist. People do not stop believing in God just because they stop believing in God. There's an underlying factor that led them to stop believing in God. And it was not lack of evidence. I could tell you that. And these studies show that that's not what causes an atheist to be atheist. It's much more personal. Something happened in the person's life. Um, Somebody in the church treated them bad and they got upset with God, or maybe they prayed to God about something and it didn't turn out their way, or maybe they lost a child or a lover or whatnot, and they prayed to God and they felt God ignored them or left them hanging, so they got upset with God. So that's a study that you should consider reading. and learn more about it. Let's go to our next tweet here, and this is something that this Puerto Rican young guy, Nocheles, he wrote. Yet he appears to realize that reciting myths to the gullible is what he really does for a living. And he's responding to this, I believe, a Portuguese who was tweeting about Pope Francis having a master's degree in chemistry, which is true. So pretty much Raul is defending Pope Francis, saying that he's educated. Pretty much, he has a master's degree in chemistry. Unlike the evangelical people that they talk about the banana, and I forgot his name, the banana guy, the one that says the banana is proof of God. Anyway, you know who I'm talking about. And these other evangelicals that make up all these kinds of strange arguments in order to defend God, but in reality, they're hurting God with these poor arguments. So this Raul is defending Pope Francis, saying Pope Francis is educated. He has a master's degree in chemistry. So the Puerto Rican No Cheles, he says that the Pope is reciting myths to the gullible for a living. Now there's two problems with that tweet. First of all, there's nothing mythical with what the Pope is saying. And second of all, the Pope is not doing this for a living. Um, Many people do not know this, but the Pope does not earn a salary. Everybody else in the church gets a salary. Cardinals get a salary, bishops get a salary, priests get a salary. Deacons do not get a salary, but some parishes do pay them or give them a stipend to help them. Religious get a stipend. They don't necessarily get a salary. They get a stipend to help them with their monthly needs or whatnot, which is not much and whatnot. But the Pope, the Pontiff, the Pope of Rome, the Bishop of Rome, does not get a salary. He does not get payment. And why is that? Well, because the Vatican takes care of him. He has no need of a salary. They drive him around. He has all the security. They have cooks and chefs that care for him, even though Pope Francis cooks for himself. And the Catholics, I believe they get two Catholics a year. And then the Pope gets measured because obviously the body goes through changes. They lose weight, they gain weight, they get older, or they have medical needs, and the cassock has to be altered in order to meet those needs. So I believe they get two cassocks a year, and Gamarelli, the store, is the one that makes it, and of course the Vatican picks up the tab for that. So the Pope really has no need for a salary or whatnot. That is why Pope Benedict, he pretty much stayed in a monastery because the money he had left over, I'm assuming, is when he was a cardinal, that he was able to save up money when he was a cardinal, when he was the Bishop of Munich, and also a professor of theology. If he was smart and wise, he probably saved up the money for when he retired. And obviously, he did not think he would become the Pope. So that's the first, the myth, or the real myth here in Nocheles' tweet. The next thing is of Christ. He's insinuated that Christ is a myth, and again, that's just nonsense. And I responded, what myth? Atheist scholars disagree with you. And I'm referring to Michael Grant and also many other. Bart, the biblical scholar Bart, and so forth, was an agnostic. All of them say that Christ was in fact a real person. Jesus Christ was a real human being who walked the earth. There's no denying this at all. And Michael Grant wrote, in recent years, no serious scholar has ventured to postulate the non-historicity of Jesus. And this is a historian atheist who wrote this book. And he makes it clear that anyone who says that Jesus was a myth is not a real scholar. It's pretty much a moron, an imbecile, because there's way too much evidence supporting the fact that Jesus Christ did exist. And anyone who denies it is just ridiculous. And it's just looking to be a provocateur of sort, trying to rattle the bones or the tempers of Christians and whatnot. But any serious scholar, any educated scholar will never dare say that Jesus Christ is a myth or an obligation of different deities or whatnot, because the facts just do not support that theory. The Christ myth theory started around the 17th, 18th century, and it came about from different, not even scholars, they were just men who sat in coffee shops and had discussions and debates. Um, the British and also American author Thomas Paine, he picked up on a lot of these discussions in coffee shops, and wrote his Age of Reason, where he also insinuated that Christ was a myth and so forth, because that was the talk of the time and among the elite in coffee shops and whatnot. And again, these people were not educated; they were just rich white men talking crap in a coffee shop, and they say, "Oh well, Jesus Christ is not real. The Catholic Church lied to us and whatnot, and bloody this and bloody that," and they just came up with all these crazy ideas. And the educated people in the time obviously did not accept it because there's no evidence for that, and it's all refuted. And in the 1920s, 1930s, 40s, when archaeology took hold in Israel, we started to find more artifacts showing that the things described in the Bible were, in fact, historical. There's actual artifacts to show that these events were true, they were real and whatnot. So thank God for archaeology, which helped solidify that these stories regarding Christ and also the rest of the Bible are in fact historical. So anyone who says that Jesus Christ is a myth, it's just talking out of the wrong hole. Excuse my bluntness, because there's just overwhelming evidence. First, you could count on the Gospels. Historians all say that the Gospels are very reliable sources. And why is this? And I may say something which may sound crazy, but the alleged contradictions or disconnections from the accounts actually help show that these Gospels are reliable. What do I mean by that? Well, when something is a myth, when a story is mythological, a lot of details are put into the story because it's a story. Just like when you write a story or book, if you remember when you were in elementary school, junior high school, whatnot, or even in college, and the teacher, the professor, told you to write a story or make up a story for a classwork or whatnot. And if you just wrote a simple story, you probably got a bad grade, and or the teacher wrote, the professor wrote, put more details, add more details. Connect the beginning, the middle, and the end. Put a cause and effect and all these different things, because that's how stories are made. You have to put a lot of details on it so the reader who reads it gets the idea of the story of what's going on. A monster appeared from here, and the monster had gray skin, and it smelled, and it did this, and then it growled at me. The author puts all kinds of details in order to make the story come alive to the reader. So those who wrote myths, like the Greek mythology, Zeus, Medusa, and so forth, Hercules, and you could see that they put a lot of emphasis, a lot of details into the story, so that the reader could get an idea of what was going on. And that's how we know these are myths, because you could see that the hyperbole in the story, the exaggerations, the emphasis on details in the story. Now, with the Gospels, we do not see that. In the Gospels, we just see the different accounts being told from the perspective of the author. And atheists read it and they say, "Oh, there's contradictions here," because this one says there's two women in the resurrection. This one says there was an angel there, that the soldiers were there, that the soldiers were asleep, and this one says doesn't mention that. And then they start saying, "Oh, well, then it's nonsense, it's BS." No, quite the contrary. The fact that there's so many disconnections, that shows that the writers intention was just to tell the truth, just to tell what was happening. That they did not focus on the details. They saw Jesus do this miracle and they just wrote about it. Just like, and if you witness an accident, if you're standing on one side of the street and then the detective asks you, what happened? How did the accident happen? And then you start saying, well, this car came from here and hit the car. And then the detective goes to somebody else across the street and says, well, what do you see? And then the person says, well, the other car came and hit the other car, because the person was looking from that perspective. Now, which one is telling the truth? Both of the accounts are different. Well, the truth of the matter is they're both telling the truth, because this one saw it from that perspective and the other one saw it from the other perspective, because those are the limits of the human eyes. So we see that in the gospel. We see the accounts telling the same story but with different accounts, because it was from the perspective of the person who was witnessing these events. So we could see right there that these events really happened, that these events are historical, because the authors will not caring a lot about details. Oh, it was a sunny day, it was a rainy day, and Jesus did this, and then Jesus smiled, and then he turned around and did this. The point of the story was that Jesus healed somebody, or Jesus did this or did that. That was the point of the story, because what is the point of the gospel? To tell the good news. It's not to keep a historical record of anybody. It's to tell the good news. Jesus was born, he came, he taught everybody, he suffered, he died, he rose from the dead. That's what the writers cared about, was telling the truth. And if they were trying to, if they invented, let's say they did invent Jesus and they made up the whole story, then they would have added more details, and they would have made Jesus look even colorful, like Zeus, all these other Greek gods. But they did not do that. They would have gone to all extents to powder up the story, like the Greeks did with Zeus and these other deities. But we do not see this in the Gospels or any other books of the Bible, because these events actually happened. They were historical. They're history. And the person is writing with the focus on mind that we have to share the story of the good news, the teachings of Christ. So that's how we could tell that these books were actually authentic, that they're not mythological, they're not myths. So anyone out there who calls these books myths is really uneducated and does not understand how scholarship works, does not understand how literature works, does not understand how mythology works. So then I'm going to show you another tweet here. This thing got disconnected again. I'm going to try to put it back. All right, and here we have another tweet. And this is again the Puerto Rican Nocheles. He's responding to this African atheist who wrote, for centuries, religion has had an exceptionally unhealthy fixation on sex. I want to enjoy sex. There's nothing sacred or holy about sex. And then the Nocheles responds, meanwhile, keep the children away from priests. And I responded, you mean atheists? Atheist and gay activist David Thorstad found in AMBLA and wants to legalize pedophilia. Now, a lot of atheists are not familiar with this. And when I mentioned to them, they attack me for it. They say I lie. But then when they do their own research, they realize that I was telling the truth. And this is actual fact. The atheist and a gay activist named David Thorstad, he founded NAMBLA, which I think stands for the North American Man-Boy Love Association. I think that's what it stands for. But pretty much it's a pedophile organization. Is the purpose of this group is to make love between men and boys legal. So he's pushing to legal. Him and his followers are pushing to make pedophilia legal, and he's an atheist. Now it's not the Catholic Church doing this. Now we have been in the news because of priests abusing kids or teenagers and whatnot. But the studies show that these were homosexual priests. They were not pedophiles, because a pedophile is interested in little children, prepubescent kids. The majority of cases do not deal with prepubescent kids, which are kids from 10 years, 11 years, 12 years and younger. The kids that were abused were 13 and older, or 15 and older, which is euphobophobia, not pedophilia, and that would constitute homosexuality. So, in reality, the Catholic Church does not have a pedophile problem, but a gay problem. Pretty much, a lot of gay men came into the priesthood for whatever reason. Um, I cannot judge them because I do not know where their frame of mind was, but obviously they abuse kids, and that's the moral of the story. Is that in reality, it's an atheist and a gay guy, David Thorstad, who's founded NAMBLA and is promoting the idea of men and boys having relationships as legal. So again, a lot of atheists out there, you really need to educate yourself on this. In fact, the Catholic Church is the only institution that has taken a strong stance against pedophilia, phobophilia, and obviously gay behavior. No other institution has done as much as the Catholic Church has to combat these evils. And just recently, Pope Francis reiterated that child abuse, there has to be zero tolerance for child abuse in the church. He reminded bishops of that just recently. Um, Yet atheists are mute on this guy. They do not condemn him. I have not seen any public condemnation of this guy. And I have searched blogs. I have looked through Google. I have searched blogs. I have looked through Bing and Yahoo and so forth. I have not found one blog or one site or one comment from Richard Dawkins or Lawrence Krauss or whatnot condemning David Thorstad. Not one, which speaks volumes. Now here's another one. This is from Doubtism, and this is a guy who's always commenting on my tweets, and he responded to a tweet that I wrote regarding people being predisposed to faith. I quoted from the cognitive psychologist Pascal Boyer. So Doubtism comes along. He starts tweeting saying that I'm wrong, that people are born atheists, despite that Boyer himself said that we are predisposed to faith. So then he tries to counteract that, and he starts book mining, posting links to books, claiming that that's not what Boyer meant. Why not? And he posts this book, Religion Explained: The Evolution Origins of Religious Thought. And I tried to explain for him that the quote that I use is not from that book. Now, this book, I have read it before, and pretty much what Boyer is doing in this book is he's giving his inference, he's giving his opinion why religion exists, and he tries to connect it with evolution. And a lot of evolutionary psychologists do this. They try to make religion as a sort of survival mechanism in the human species. The human beings created religion in order to survive and whatnot. Now, the theory is interesting, but it's not really that mainstream because there's a lot of flaws with it. Now, first of all, what how will religion save you from a lion about to eat you? I mean, are you going to do a voodoo doll, or are you going to dance around and do a rain dance to scare the lion away? So there's a lot of problems with the idea that religion just came as part of evolution and whatnot. It does not make any sense at all. And then in the book, Boyer says that humanity developed superstitions and whatnot in order to help them cope and thrive and whatnot. Now the ideas are interesting, but again, it's just inferring on nature. They're just making up stuff along the way in order to have something to write about. And I said this before on previous broadcasts that just because a scientist writes a book doesn't mean that the book is science. It's just his or her opinion. Now, I guarantee you that Boyer will not be able to pass this stuff off in a peer-reviewed journal because it will get rejected. Because most of the stuff that he says there is just his opinion. He's looking at the facts that we are hardwired to believe in God and to be religious. All of us, even atheists, are hardwired to believe in God and to be religious. Now, takes a little further, inferring that it's in order to survive in nature and evolve, in order to create communities and so forth, which is that's a stretch of the imagination on the part of Boyer. So the autism, I was trying to explain that to him last night, but he was not getting it. But the majority of scientists believe and state that we are all hardwired to believe in God. We have the VMAT2 gene that hardwires us to believe in God and to be religious and whatnot. Here's another one. People that are born with high religiosity, prone to superstition, natural thinking, are feared of God or indoctrination. And again, this tweet is based on ignorance. Like I just said, we are all hardwired. Doubtism, atheists are prone to indoctrination as well, and we see that. There's even a church of atheism that was highlighted on a special on CNN last year. And again, that's because we are all hardwired to be religious people, to be religious in nature. So this tweet obviously shows his ignorance of cognitive psychology and so forth. And this is another one. Twitter loads it for me. I can show you. As it reminds me, you never did answer me. Is superstition thought good cognition? Is superstition quality thinking? Now, again, how can you define good cognition? To my knowledge, no cognitive psychology has ever made such a definition. Because each human brain, while it's similar in design, works differently. People perceive things differently. Um, a colorblind person may not be able to see the color red. Does that mean that he or she does not have good cognition? The brain just works different based on their genetic structure. And that's not the fault of the person. Now, good cognition to me will be a brain that's working healthy. Bad cognition to me is a brain that's not working in a healthy way. It's not processing things in a healthy way. And again, these have nothing to do with religion. Somebody could be superstition. That does not mean they have bad cognition or good cognition. They just happen to be superstitious. And superstition is not necessarily religious. Superstition can be anything. There's people that knock on wood, believing that's going to get them luck. There's people that say that you break a mirror, they get bad luck. And that has nothing to do with religion at all. It's just a psychological phenomenon. So again, the autism is showing his lack of understanding of cognitive psychology, which is a big problem with atheists. They really do not understand a lot of things, and they try to present themselves as scholars of something where in reality they have no idea what's going on. Now again, Alacutis sent a tweet. It's at 2:42 a.m. and he says, "You say you were once an atheist." Yes, I did. Does that mean you didn't exist back then? Now he's referring to a comment I made to Doubtism, where I wrote that atheists do not exist, and I was quoting a scientist who said that. And it's the title of a blog post on the topic. And while the scientist meant that atheists don't exist, he means that since we are all hardwired to believe in God, then atheism really does not exist. It's an outlier in nature because we are all hardwired to believe in God. So if we are all hardwired to believe in God, it is our nature to believe in God, and atheism has no role in the natural formation of the human person. So that's what the psychology of the scientist means by atheists don't exist. It is an outlier in nature. So those are the tweets that I'm going to answer right now that I got so far. Hopefully you were able to get something out of that. And going back to superstition, I'm going to show you what the dictionary says regarding superstition. Now, this is from Merriam-Webster, and the first definition: a belief or practice resulting from ignorance, fear of the unknown, trust in magic or chance, or false conception of causation. Again, these have nothing to do with religion. It's a belief. This is what I'm referring to about knocking on wood, bringing a mirror, and so forth. It's something that's based on ignorance, fear of the unknown, or trust in magic or magical powers or chance, or false conception of causation. Now, just on this definition, we could include atheists here because atheists believe that the universe was created by chance. Atheists believe that the universe was created by chance and that God had nothing to do with it. There was no intelligence, it was by chance. Now, there's no evidence for this. There's no evidence at all saying that the universe was created by chance. We just do not know. Scientists say we do not know. They do not say that it was by chance, nor do they say that it was by God, because science has to keep within its boundaries of studying nature. Most likely, we may never know, scientifically speaking, what caused the universe, because science would be limited. Because, first of all, science can only figure it out within nature. Obviously, what caused the universe was outside of nature, because before the universe existed, there was no nature. So, obviously, whatever was the cause of the universe is supernatural, is above nature, beyond nature. So, an atheist that says that the universe was created by chance is being superstitious. He or she has a false conception of causation. Now, the second definition, B, says an irrational, abject attitude of mind toward the supernatural, nature or God resulting from superstition. Now, this is where religion comes into play. And this has to do with syncretic religions, or like Santeria, they said that, who believe that certain things have magical powers and voodoo and spells and things like that. That's the religion that this definition is referring to. The mainstream religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, do not believe in God or nature in this manner. So you cannot classify Judaism, Islam, or Catholicism as superstition because it doesn't fit the criteria. Now, the second definition here: a notion maintained despite contrary evidence to the contrary. And again, this can be applied to atheists. What idea do they make? What notion do they maintain there's that there's evidence to the contrary? Well, like I just stated, the creation of the universe. They say it was by chance. We have no evidence that it was by chance. No evidence at all. So they're holding a notion maintained despite evidence to the contrary. So right there, you can see that the atheism can be classified as superstition as well. So if we're going to be playing those word games, then go right ahead. If you want to call all religion superstition, then you set yourself up for a straw man fallacy, and you will be taken down by anybody who's well schooled in logic and religion and so forth. Now, I wanted to speak a bit about Christmas. We celebrate Christmas. I touched a bit about Christmas regarding the accusations that Christ was a myth. One, obviously not. Scholars do not believe this. There's evidence from extra biblical sources, like from Tacitus, who wrote, Nero fastened the guilt on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of Pontius Pilate. And a most mysterious superstition, thus checked for the moment, again broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome. So this is a writing from Tacitus regarding Christ and the existence of Christ and Christianity. Another one is from Pliny the Younger, and he writes, they were in the habit of meeting on a certain fixed day before it was light, when they sang in alternate verses a hymn to Christ as to a God, and bound themselves to a solemn oath not to any wicked deeds, but never to commit any fraud, theft, or adultery, never to falsify their word, nor deny a trust when they should be called upon to deliver it up. After which it was their custom to separate and then reassemble to partake of food, but food of an ordinary and innocent kind. So here, Pliny the Younger is describing the Mass, how they gathered together, they ate the bread and the wine, the body and blood of Christ, and how they behaved. They did not do wicked things to each other. They never committed fraud, theft, or adultery. They never falsified the word. They prayed and sang to Christ as to a God. So right there we see evidence that Christ existed, and there was a following of this Christ, and the people believed this Christ to be God. And I could continue on and on. There's more evidence from Josephus, from the Babylonian Talmud, from Lucian, etc., showing evidence for extra biblical evidence for Christ. In the beginning, I touched a bit more about the evidence for Christ just by using scholarly methods and analyzing the gospel accounts. So, anybody out there who says that Christ was not real, that it's a myth, that Christmas is a myth, is ridiculous and whatnot. Now, obviously, they can make a case that December 25th was the day of the Sol Invictus and so forth and whatnot. But again, you have to understand how Christians work. They were trying to convert the people. Now, think about it. If Christ was a myth, then how could they convert people who were already believing in a myth? If they already believed in Mithra as the Son of God and whatnot, then what difference would Christ have made if it was another myth? It would make no sense. They would have just stuck to believing in Mithra. So obviously, just Jesus was different. The person of Jesus was different. That it brought about conversion and zeal to the point that these people suffered and died. Nobody suffered and died for Mithra. Nobody suffered and died for Zeus or anybody else. But lots suffered and died for Christ. Why? Because they saw the real deal. They saw Jesus Christ was the real McCoy, so to speak. So when these people saw these miracles and all these things that Christ did, they said, wait a minute, this is for real. It's so real that they did not care losing their lives over, because they saw God. They saw the creator of life. So once you have that security that there is a God, then you do not care what happens to your life, because you know there is a God. So you know what he says is true. And if he promised you resurrection, then that means it's going to happen, because you saw the proof. This guy was really God. So that's why all these Christians were willing to die and suffer for Christ, because they saw the real thing. Now, lastly, New Year's. We had a crazy 2016. So many people dying, so many celebrities whatnot, so many horrific attacks, like in Orlando and so forth. In France, with the different attacks with the trucks recently, and with the truck in Germany. Hopefully, 2017 will be a different year. I wish there was a year that nothing happened. I will pay good money for a year that nothing bad happens. There's no murder, there's no rape, there's no crime, nothing. Everybody just lives in peace. If that was ever possible. But unfortunately, fallen human nature, we just have to kill each other. We just have to fight each other. We just have to live in discord. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. And which should empower us more to pray more, to work stronger, to change this world, to make this world loving and peaceful and tolerant for everybody. So hopefully 2017 will bring many blessings, many joys, good health to everyone. And I want to wish everybody a great, happy new year. Um, we remember all of those who passed away in 2016, especially my cousin. May he rest in peace. And all the other people who passed away, may they rest in peace. May God shine eternal life on them and have mercy on them. And we pray for the entire world, for the suffering, especially the children out there who are born without knowing what's going on, and they get caught up in all kinds of drama in the world from dysfunctional families and whatnot. So we have to remember them, remember people with disabilities, remember people with sicknesses. We have to remember one another, regardless of where we come from, whether you're Catholic or not, whether you're male or female, whether you're gay or transsexual or not. God is the judge, so we just leave that judgment to him. That's his job. But our job is to just teach the truth, try to win over converts for Christ, and to love one another ultimately. So I want to extend my well wishes to everybody, to all believers, to all atheists, agnostics, everybody around the world. And let's try to get along. Let's make 2070 a great year, a year that we remember as being good, having so many positive things. Hopefully, we find new cures. Hopefully, there will be a cure for cancer in 2070, a cure for HIV, for AIDS, for any other illness that we struggle with, the common cold, the flu, whatnot. So we had to be humble and ask God to help us reach those endeavors and to help us reach the poor people suffering and whatnot. And that everything will be working well under the new president, Donald Trump. We also want to pray for him and wish him well. I know many people disagree with him, but he's the one that the people picked. So we have to pray for him and wish him well, because if we wish him ill, if we wish him to fail, then we all are going to fail, because he is going to be the chief executive of the United States, the president. So it is in our best interest that he succeeds, especially if we want to continue our nation and hopefully make it better. As the mantra make the American great again. So it is in our best interest that we wish Donald Trump well or whatnot, regardless of whether you believe him or not, or accept to him or his campaign or not. We have to wish him the best. So thank you for listening. Remember to please help and donate. Go to my GoFundMe, www.gofundme.com/sacerdotus, SACERDOTUS, or you could visit my site, www.sacerdotus.com, and click on the PayPal and donate there as well. Again, your funds will truly help to reach more people, to get the equipment necessary to make these broadcasts more professional, more fruitful for everyone. And again, God bless, Merry Keep, and Happy New Year, Merry Christmas to all.